I mean, we don't, but it is our motto.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like the light is green. And we should be showing up on the YouTube here in just okay. So it looks like we are live on YouTube. So let's go ahead and kick it off. We're here right now with the Amigos Retro Gaming crew of guys, and we got some of us here as well. So why don't we start off by introducing who the Amigos Retro Gaming guys are, and then we'll introduce some of us who are here to talk to you all today.
Sounds good. I'm the Brent. I'm the ARG co-host with my brother.
I'm Aaron. I'm on all the shows, Amigos, Coco Show, R. Sinclair, and ARG.
Yeah, and I'm John, otherwise known as Boat of Car or just Boat, and I'm on all the shows except for ARG.
All right, well, thanks for being here with us, guys. We certainly appreciate you taking time to join us, and you've come on our radar recently because y'all started doing Coco videos, and that's obviously what we're kind of into. That's our system. And let me just allow the rest of our panel who's here right now say hi and introduce themselves as well, and then we'll jump right into it. But with us, we have Mark Overholzer, who's a Coco guy and an Apple guy.
I've been a Coco guy and a Commodore guy and a Tamic Sinclair guy, much longer than a Coco guy.
Oh, okay. There's no accounting for taste.
Anyway,
we have Nick Marotta from O Canada, who's definitely a Coco 2 guy.
Oh, my joke is that the Coco 2 is all you really need, but I like the Coco 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just my nostalgia is more for the 2.
We have Ron Delvaux from Arizona, who likes all things Tandy. We have L. Curtis Boyle from O Canada, who put all this together for us. Thanks for being here, Curtis, and for putting this together.
No problem.
We have Jason, the Coco Man Reichert. So I think by the fact that he calls himself Coco Man, you get an idea what his favorite system is.
And just out of curiosity, Jason, are you still going through West Virginia, or are you out now?
No, I'm out of West Virginia now. I only went through about a five miles of the northern panhandle.
Okay.
Good move. Keep going, pal.
John Lowry is here.
Hey guys.
John. David Ladd is here. Grant Leedy here, and Chet Simpson is here as well. Thanks for being here, Chet.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, so we are pressed for time. We've got about a good hour with these guys, so we want to just jump right into it. So thanks for being here, guys. And Curtis, you want to kick things off? I know you had a handful of questions, and I guess we'll jump in with our questions and comments as we go through this.
Sure. I guess first of all, you guys should probably define what ARG is, because that's doesn't really self-explanatory as to what exactly that one. The other ones are.
So when Aaron and I started to do, I got the idea to do a second show where we'd spotlight a different computer every week. And I thought the name of our network, I named the network at the same time, because before we were just Amigos, I was like, how about Amigos Retro Gaming? That way we can do other stuff besides just the Amiga. And there's a really, really famous podcast. Their secondary feed is called Giant Bomb Presents. Their normal show is called Giant Bomb. And so I was like, how about ARG Presents? And Aaron hated it. And he hated it from day one.
I still don't like it, but no one knows what it means. Just like you guys.
But whenever I left the show and Brent took over in my stead, in their normal way, Aaron chose not to rename the podcast. It would a lot of back end work.
Right. The die was cast.
Yeah.
So we held on to it. So now we're just keep on trucking.
And really, we went from a computer variety show to now we cover pretty much anything we can think of.
Oh, yeah.
Be it board games, handheld systems that are just one-shots.
Why don't you guys explain the shtick of the show?
We have a wheel that we add ideas that are given to us usually by our audience. And it's an 8-slotted wheel that we spin. And whatever topic comes up, that's what we do the following week. Aaron and I each pick a game from that system. We do a history of the system at the first part of the show, and then we go over each of our game in detail.
Is this the software circle?
We do software, hardware.
I mean, it's an actual thing you.
Well,
is it an actual thing you spin, or is it a software?
Yes, it is.
wheel?
Oh, yes, the wheel is physical. Yep.
It's not there today.
Unfortunately, that is in Amigo Studio East.
Yeah, we only use that on our ARG Present show. For everything else, we let the people, our supporters and stuff pick what we play. So we literally, and on none of our shows, do we really have a hand in what we pick. We let people pick what they want us to play, and then we play it.
I like the AJ show because, like you said, you guys started with doing various systems type thing, but now you're doing like themes, like you'll do educational games or you'll do.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a wide variety of things every week.
And those were suggested too. Like most of the themes, like we did mouse games, we've done black and white games, and all kinds of crazy games, and people just come up with them. We don't care. We'll do anything.
We even did a VCR game. VCR board.
We haven't done that one yet,
but it's on.
Yeah, that's
I can't wait for that show.
Yeah.
So have you done the old handhelds like Merlin and Split Second and Wildfire and those kinds of?
We did do handhelds, but I think we were doing I believe we covered like electronic handheld games. Didn't we do like a baseball, or you did something? You did a Cubert or something, didn't you? And
I did a Burger Time, and you had a actual real REEL type game.
One of those little driving games where you move the little wheel and there's a
Digital Derby.
Yeah.
That's it. That was it.
I used to have all those. I still have some of them.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah.
Boat. I got that for Boat for
those
Christmas
are awesome.
I actually repaired it and got it working for him, and
so he repaired it.
Yeah.
The battery's not included.
Act out. He strikes again.
Yeah, I took one apart when I was a kid and never got it back together.
Yeah,
I can believe it. Yeah.
When you're a kid, you want to see what's in there. It's like, man, this is cool.
That's right.
And back then it was a combination of electronics and mechanics too. So I mean,
yes, absolutely.
That's what makes those games really, really cool.
But I still got like my Merlin and Simon and all those in the garage. I should dig them out sometimes.
So do you guys have any women involved at all? It doesn't look like a woman lives there.
This is Amigo Studios, which is the basement of my house.
Oh, okay.
And so up above is my wife's realm, and this is sort of where I can call the shots.
Okay.
It's like the Little Rascals Clubhouse. No
That's
girls
right.
allowed.
That's right. We got pinball, arcade machines down here, whatever you want. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
So I'm checking out your YouTube channel. I see you got like 4 shows on there right now. So you have the Amigos, the ARG Presents, R. Sinclair, and now the Coco Show. Is that kind of your product offerings right now?
No more.
Yeah,
no
right.
More shows. Oh, excuse me.
And
that's all we can handle.
And how long have you guys been doing this on YouTube and other formats? I see your videos go back like 4 years now. Is that about?
Yeah, we started in July of 2015, which was the 30th anniversary of the Amiga. Our show just happened to coincide with that. We'd been talking about doing the show for a long time, almost a year before we actually started it. And it was just happenstance that the pieces fell together during a big time for the Amiga. And I think that was a big part of our early success, was there was a lot of press around the 30th anniversary of the Amiga.
Okay, so your first show was the Amigos show.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was you and mostly Aaron, John and Aaron started that one?
Yeah, and Brent fills in for me from time to time. He'll be in for me next week when I'm in Ireland. So
excellent.
You guys are aware this is the 40th anniversary of the Coco?
Yes. We have. I've seen that in several places. So it's a big year for the Coco this year.
I had no idea.
Really? Oh my gosh! Yeah. How could you not have seen that?
And what about first systems? What was the first system for each of you guys?
Why don't you start, because you're the oldest?
Whoa!
Ouch!
You're supposed to say age before beauty.
He does this to me every day. So the first system we ever had. Now I'm going to exclude like a Pong system or something. The one we got, my folks wanted to make sure that their boy had a good computer at home, and so the first thing they bought me was an Odyssey 2, which was not a good computer. It was a bad keyboard strapped onto a let's say Midland console game, and so once we had that for a while, and they realized, hey, wait a minute, doesn't look like Junior's going to learn how to program on this thing. They bought us a color computer too, so that was which was my second machine, and I'm guessing that was your first machine, wasn't it, Brent? Because we had that when.
Well, no, I was alive when the Odyssey. Aaron and I are brothers, so his answer is the same as my answer. I don't remember a lot from the Odyssey outside of just playing it with games. When we got the computer, I actually kind of toyed around with it more, started to learn a little more what a computer actually does. And I was 8 at the time. So I would say that was probably more my first system than the Odyssey was. John?
I started out actually. I'm the youngest here. I'm 10 years younger than Aaron, and I'm 3 years younger than Brent. So I'm a kid. I was born in the 80s.
No, wow.
What is the recurring theme?
Yeah. And so, but however, my first computer was actually an Atari 1200 XL. My dad purchased it secondhand, and he used it briefly as his work machine until it rapidly became apparent that Atari was not going to win the business war. And he bought a work computer, a PC, and I inherited the Atari, and I used that Atari for a long time, maybe 5 or 6 years. However, after that, I became a straight console gamer. I grew up in the heyday to be a kid when the Nintendo Entertainment System was at its zenith. When Mario Mania was gripping the nation.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had all the Nintendo systems, and I didn't really get back into the computer scene until I was in college, and I discovered this place called Digital Press online. It's this forums where like retro video game and computer collecting, and I sort of got back into the Atari, and but those are basically been my two big systems throughout my life. I was a big Atari 1200 XL guy, or Atari 8-bit guy. Then I moved into the consoles, and then I had all the consoles.
Okay. Now, did any of you get into a career in technology from your love of computers and video games in your childhood?
I am a IT support guy. I did IT support on the hardware and software level, including VoIP phones and some network work for Dow Chemical. I did that for 14 and a half years, and the job was killing me. And I was like, I'm done with this, because we wore a pager all the time, and
pagers.
Because our cell phone signals in West Virginia were not strong enough to work everywhere we went. So they strapped pagers to us.
They're still not good enough.
And after 14 and a half years, I told my wife, we're in a pretty good place financially. I'm done. And I
would not go over.
That's the best wife.
So
best wife of all time.
She's doing all the work now.
I went back. I actually work a job now doing stuff like photo restoration and design and layout, page layout at a print shop.
Neat.
Okay, like pre-press type stuff then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, because didn't you study printing for a time
I did.
at West Virginia Tech?
Yeah, my schooling, my very first thing was I went into computer science because I wanted to be a game designer. And I went to an engineering school for the computer science, and they were like, here are your classes you have to get up to. And we had to do fluids as a math class to graduate from the program. And I was just like, I can't do this. There's no way I'll ever be able to grasp this. So I switched to accounting, and that for just a song. And then I went into printing. And then from there, I dropped out of that school, went to another school, and got a network administration certificates. And that's when I went to work in the workforce.
You took rather a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah,
it absolutely is.
What about John or Aaron? You guys doing anything in tech? Any IT work or
Yeah. Oh yeah. I went to Marshall University for a computer science degree. It didn't go too good.
Yours went way worse than mine. Mine didn't go well.
I got a degree, an electronics degree, and I ended up working for IBM for about 10 years in Lexington, Kentucky, until they shut down production up there. And then I, screwed around, did some freelancing, did a bunch of crazy stuff. I was the full-time computer tech at a computer store for about another 5 or 6 or 7 years. And I am currently a breath alcohol technician for the fine state of Kentucky. I go and take care of all their, I go and take care of all the breathalyzers and whatnot in my little
calibration and stuff.
No, did you guys wind up making PCs for people?
Well, yeah. And also I had went down the arcade route because we then but everybody's got these like MAME cabinets now.
Yeah.
But I think I had one of the first ones around probably anywhere. I mean, way back. Yeah. It ran off a floppy disk. It was real old. And so I sold some of those and did some stuff like that. A bunch of, if you're a tech, a freelancer, you guys probably, any of y'all have done it. You know how it is. You're repairing computers and you're doing support and all that crazy stuff. I'm glad I'm out of that. I'll be honest with you. So I'm pretty cool with the gig with the cops. They as long as you don't mind going into prison or jail every once in a while, it's cool. Which I don't. As long as they let me out, I'm good to go with it for now. What about you, Boatster? You sort of bucked the trend, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I'm a middle school band director.
Oh wow.
Cool.
So yeah,
I like music. So.
I have.
He took all that Coco knowledge and went straight to music.
I have a degree in music education, and I also have a master's degree in digital library management. So I do have a technology-related degree, and I have worked at Apple retail for 2 different times in my career as a part-time job. I worked once when I was living up DC, and then once when I was in grad school over in England. So I have some experience from the Mac side of things, and I was working for Apple back, soon after Steve Jobs came back, and it was really, really exciting to work there because it hadn't turned into the iPhone company yet. So,
have you guys watched our show much?
Yes.
Have you seen David O'Connor, his setup for music?
I didn't know that. No.
Oh, he's got. Tell him, Steve.
Some crazy.
Yeah, we've got a couple of professional musicians in our group too. So we've got David O'Connor, we've got Bruce Moore, and a few others too. He's a vocal coach.
Oh wow!
Did you guys?
What's your primary instrument?
Oh, sorry about
trombone.
that. Trombone.
Yeah, and all 3 of us were in the band. That's how we all know each other.
Oh,
I played trumpet and flugel. I sucked. He
He
held a baritone. I staggered stupidly on the field with a baritone. And that was my gig, but I wasn't very good. Although I did rise the first chair, but that shows you the quality of the baritone.
You're all in the brass section.
That's right, all brass.
Low brass kicks ass, man.
I played sousaphone.
Sousaphone.
Yeah,
heavy,
that's a man's instrument.
Thank you. Tell my dad.
Did you guys ever mess around with coding at all on your retro systems, like playing in BASIC or anything else, like assembly or anything else?
Yeah, I know you said a couple of you guys have actually gone, trying to get computer science degrees, and modern gaming is like 3D math and all kinds of matrix multiplication, which is beyond me too. Chet can do it, and I think Nick can do a little bit of it too, but that's beyond me. So I would like the retro systems in my case because it's something I can actually understand and actually write some useful code in. So is that the same experience you guys have had?
Yeah, I did a lot with a BASIC. I had this book called Kids in the Atari when I was growing up, and it had a lot of like basic things you could type in. And I still remember this clearly. There was a point at which there was a break from where I was typing in things I could understand and I could parse. And then all of a sudden it would just turn into me just typing in these programs. And I was coding the machine, but I was not actually doing, things that I could understand. And that's sort of the way I've attempted several times to get back into basic programming throughout my whole life. And every single time it's like when it gets into like a lot of for next loops and things like that, something in my brain shuts off and the voice from above says, "This is why you're a band director."
Yeah, actually, I remember as a young child, I would we would get games, acquire games, and I would go in and change the crack screens just to put my name in it. And 8-year-old me thought that was the best thing ever.
You were a hacker.
When I ran the game and my name would pop up.
I'm like,
yes, yep.
Yeah. That was the extent of your programming.
For that, oddly enough, I think the next biggest thing I programmed for it was the TI-85.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
Oh yeah,
the calculator. That
was a big scene in high school. Yeah,
I broke into BASIC on the Apple II, and that really scarred me. Some people love the Apple II, right? But I'm telling you, it's someone that used it during its heyday. I hated that machine. It was weird. It did weird stuff. You had to reset it at weird times. And I was used to. I really started off on the Coco doing BASIC. I'd be typing in stuff out of Compute Magazine or whatever, and then I would make my own programs. I was a big fan of those Choose Your Adventure books, so I was like, "Hey, I can make a program. I'll just use here's the source right here. I just fork it, stick it in a program. Wham, bam, Bob Druckle text adventure." So I did that stuff, And then they moved me over to do. I went to camp to learn BASIC on the Apple too. Apple BASIC's different than Coco, Microsoft BASIC, and not in a good way, brother. I didn't like it. Like the Apple, and so I just and really I piddled around a little bit more, but I never got into it. I ended up going down the hardware side of computers, which was the non-profitable side to go down, dumb guy side. And so I never really got into programming. I mean, when I was in college, we did some assembly and stuff, but I sucked. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I don't have the skills to get to do any sort of proper programming.
Cool. Rick Adams is in the live chat. Rick Adams, creator of Temple of Rom and Shanghai and many other Coco things. He's saying that him and Dale Lear both had music backgrounds too. Another Coco
there's
game
a
designer.
lot of folks out there in the software industry that have music degrees. It's amazing. When I started listening to a bunch of industry podcasts, how many people come out of the world of music. I just was not graced with that sort of talent. Yeah,
music is very mathematical.
I've heard that. I've yet to experience it.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
This is a guy who teaches music. So yeah. So none of you guys mentioned the Spectrum or the Sinclair as being one of your first computers. So how is it you guys are doing a show on the Sinclair? What got you into that system?
So what happens is when we started doing Amigos, we started receiving these packages from all over the world. It's just like when we got tonight with the Super Cassette Vision. And in one of these packages was an Amiga 600 and a ZX Spectrum, a 48K ZX Spectrum. And the Spectrum kind of sat on the shelf for about a year because we
had no idea what to do with it.
Well, there were several hurdles that you have to come out. You have to figure out a way to get video output. You have to figure out a way to get the power to work, and you have to figure out a way to get the games on the thing. This thing doesn't even have a joystick port. I mean, it's a very, very basic machine. But we overcame those hurdles about a year ago, actually just almost exactly a year ago today. We fired the thing up, we got it working, and we said, hey, why don't we try and do a Sinclair Spectrum show, because there's not really a lot of Americans talking about this thing. And we thought maybe we could bring sort of an American perspective to what had been, purely a British or, Commonwealth system. And so far, it's been a lot of fun because Spectrum games are totally different than any other games that you've ever seen, because the limitations of the system combined with the things that are great about the system, like the games run super fast, the colors are amazing, the sound the sound is horrible. The sound is horrible. There's no doubt about it.
On the 48K.
Yeah, on the 48K. But it's a very unique and it's a very British system, and it's something we really enjoy covering.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of the people that watched Amigos and still do are like, our base is much more in Europe and Australia and New Zealand, that area, the Netherlands, all that area, than it is in America. And so that's sort of what they dug. And when we started Amigos, and we have no plan, by the way, but
Aaron came over one night and said, let's do the podcast.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, man, there's no one covering the Amiga. This sucks. Where's the Amiga? And I was like, some enterprising young lad should start an Amiga podcast.
And then Aaron did it for some reason.
Yeah. And Boat's like, we should do that. I'm like, I don't have any talent.
I was expecting John to say that.
That was proven right. And then Boat kept hassling me until one day I just showed up. He goes, we're filming it right now. I was like, duh.
But we weren't filming it.
Well, you know what I mean? We're taping it or whatever. And so, but he has no experience with the Amiga. None. And so this is sort of a common thread on our shows. So when we did Sinclair, Boat, this show, neither one of us have any experience in this. And when we did Coco, Boat has never played a Coco
before.
One time, before we did it. But that's kind of fun. And each show has its own flavor, because like I didn't grow up with an Amiga, but I knew it fairly well from my college days. But I did grow up with a Coco, but I was out of it before a lot of stuff happened, and neither one of us grew up with a Spectrum. And so I guess wide-eyed innocence is part of the appeal of watching us stagger around trying to get this stuff to work. I mean, you don't know how lucky you got it with the Coco. You plug this sucker in, you plug in the video, you're good to go.
Yeah.
All these other systems, it's a crapshoot where you can get these. I've had an Amiga for years, and the game we played last week, I couldn't get it to run on my Amiga. It just drives you nuts. The only thing you have to do in the Coco to get stuff to work is just hold down F1 occasionally when you turn it on. That's it. You're good to go. You got the SD thing. It's great. So, but that's generally sort of the theme of the show. us stupidly staggering into a new project, trying to figure out what's going on.
That reminds us of our show, actually.
Yeah.
Whose Coco is that sitting there?
That is my Coco. This was gifted to me about 3 weeks ago from Aaron. It was a little Christmas present. We had a Coco 2 that I was going to use, and there was an
less
event.
said, the better.
Yeah.
Oh no!
With that Coco 2,
I fixed it.
and so, but the Coco 3 miraculously appeared, and boy, I couldn't be happier. Like Aaron said, after years of struggling with getting the Amiga to do anything, it's a big issue is that so many of the games that we play on the show are PAL games. And on an NTSC Amiga, I mean, they sort of work, kind of maybe sometimes. With the Coco, you fire it up, you turn it on, and it goes. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, another question. How about BBC machine? Have you ever looked at one of those?
BBC Micro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've played. We don't have a BBC Micro. We just got an Amstrad in the mail. We've got to do some work on that. But BBC is one we don't have. Although me and Boat did an ARG presents on it. Me and Brent have done an ARG presents on the BBC Micro. So we're sort of familiar with some of the games on it, but we don't have one. I'd say at some point we'll probably grab one somewhere in the line.
It's way too iconic not to have in the collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice you have this international plethora of people that actually give you donations and help you with the systems and stuff too. And the fact that you've got some people that have experience with the machines and others that don't, that's one of the best things of your shows, I think, is this dynamic. You get, unbiased opinions from John, as some people might call them, are just wrong.
It's funny. Retro Man Cave just did a huge series on the BBC Micro, and he's been a supporter of our show for years. And so whenever we do get one, we know. I mean, it's like there's guys that we know to get. It's like Curtis. It's like you with the Coco. You're the man. We go to you when we need anything.
Yeah. It helps to have friends that know what they're doing, because clearly we're idiots. We don't know what the heck we're doing.
Boy, have I ever pulled the rug over your eyes. Holy cow.
So, John, what's your general impression of the Coco been? Because a lot of times when we get people comparing different systems, the Coco often gets slagged for not having sound, and so a lot of our games suffer from that. So, like, what has your experience gaming been like? Has that been an issue for you, or do you still find
your pet peeve
enjoyable?
Well, here's the thing. I always approach any new computer system with a completely open mind. I am quick to recognize the things that are great about it, and the limitations. Any computer that's as old as the Coco is, you're going to recognize the limitations right off the bat. I mean, there's no perfect computer out there. The thing that I like about the Coco is that, one, it has a really interesting palette. I'm a very visual person, and I really like the blue and the white and the orange of the Coco. You immediately know you're playing a Coco game when you see those three colors, because
the red, white, and blue artifact
those colors is different than, say, the way that the Atari 8-bits display those colors.
It's somewhere between CGA and like the Spectrum palette. Yeah. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah,
it is very unique.
The thing that that struck me when we started playing these games was just how sort of obscure the system is in terms of like software distribution. Like, so many of the games that we played that are great games were only sold in magazines, like the Tom Mix stuff. Because the way that Radio Shack, and of course this is all stuff that I've learned, is that Radio Shack was very adamant for a long time about only selling first party titles. Yeah. And so the distribution system for the Coco is just so unique and unusual. To me, when we do these shows, the game is only a small part of what makes it interesting. It's the story behind it, and it's all the things that went into it. And that's why things like the Coco Archive and all the various online resources are such a blessing, is because I love digging into the stories. And then when you're playing the game, I mean, the game might not blow you away, but you know all that went into it. It really makes it a fulfilling experience.
And Curtis's page is the number one stop, the game page. I knew about that long before we did a Coco show. I was going there quite a bit. I never knew I'd meet the guy that was behind it.
Yeah. I will say that
we have a feature.
I'm sorry.
We have a feature in our show called "Why Did Tandy Do That?"
It's a long-running series.
With any retro system, I want to experience it as it was back in the day. That's why, you know, like when you guys are talking about Nitro and OS9 and all that stuff, it's just like, that doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry, but I'd be happy with a 64K Coco 2. I want to play the games that were available to the masses at the time and see how it was back in the day.
We don't. That happens a lot on various computers. Like there's all kinds of stuff going on with the Amiga. Like there's all these advanced Amigas and all sort of stuff. And same with the Spectrum. We don't have any idea. We are just some guys in a basement that just fire up a camera and play some games. That's all. The rest of it. I mean, sometimes that might be interesting to kind of fool around with, but I mean, we don't have any idea what's going on with that stuff.
John, I'm gonna cut out that clip and send it to Rob Inman, who is one of our friends here on the show, who always gives me heck for saying that the Coco 2 is my go-to machine. So you made my day, man. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, and you don't hear too many people saying that. I really like the fact that it only has 4 colors, you know, the red, white, and blue. So
they did so much with it, though.
Oh,
yeah, the
absolutely.
way that they do artifacting, I mean, it's engineering genius, the things they were able to do with that machine.
Yeah.
When I started using the Coco 1-2 before I got a 3, and I was more of a user of the machine, like, you know, accounting. I did artwork I was a sign painter, so I used a digitizer and would take pictures, video of a building, and before I showed the person what I was going to do for their sign, I would digitize it for another building. I'd use Coco Max to put the sign on the building and then print it out and show them ahead of time what their sign would look like on the building.
Oh,
Nobody
wow.
did that back then, and I was doing it with the Coco, so it was pretty
fantastic.
awesome.
Kind of like Photoshop pre-visualization type stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Coco Max. I hadn't thought about that for a while.
We've been joined by Nick Marentes, author of Gunstar, who you got a chance to do a little bit of playing there. Aaron. Yeah. Good eye, Nick.
G'day. Yeah, that's right.
Nick, we're talking about how the Coco 2 is superior. So do you want to join in on that?
This must be the wrong show then.
Nick's another one who gives me a hard time about that.
So you guys been doing retro broadcasting for a while. What has been like some of your favorite? Give us like an example of some of your favorite moments and maybe some of your least favorite moments of doing stuff between off the air and on the air type stuff.
Go ahead.
I've got things queued up.
Bo hates everything. Go for it.
Without a doubt, my favorite thing that we've done as a result of the show has been our yearly Amigathon charity fundraiser. We've raised almost $10,000 in the past 3 years for Children's Miracle Network hospitals.
Wow.
We do a marathon of varying lengths. The first year, I think it was 10 hours. The second year, we did 24 hours.
Never again.
Never again. And then last year, we did 12 hours.
And this was all on the Amiga. So you can't just be like, well, time to play a new game and just hit the button. You're rigging stuff and cajoling. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
And my absolute worst part of the 5 years that we've been doing podcasting was during an Amigathon where the internet went out, and not only because the internet went out, my router blew up. I had to replace my router and my cable modem, all while, you know, people, the way that we structure Amigathon is that people pay for time. So you pay, you know, you donate money to Children's Miracle Network for us to play your game for a set amount of time.
Okay.
So I have never felt the panic as I drove to Walmart 85 miles an hour on this one lane road to get a new router while the guys were back here trying to troubleshoot the one at home. So those are my favorite and least favorite things. I should also mention too that our listeners are so kind. They for the past 2 years, and I'm leaving actually in 3 days to Amiga Ireland. They've paid for me to go over there and experience that and host some of the panels and things. So those are probably my two highlights.
I've got a horrible memory, so I'm sure there are plenty of great things that I'm forgetting, but just the things that popped into my head, I love, and this is a sort of a highlight that just occasionally will happen when we're on ARG Presents, and we just happen to come across some weird, obscure system like an Auric or some crazy system, and then there just happens to be a game on there that no one's heard of and no one's ever played, and it's great. I love that. That's happened a few times. This is going to sound cheesy or pandering, but I take great pleasure in doing the Coco stuff for two reasons. One, I actually have nostalgic feelings about the Coco because I grew up with it. I mean, I really thought this was a great machine to have as a kid. My friends would have all this crazy stuff, C64s and stuff, and I'd look at what they were playing, and I'd be like, wait a minute, my version of the arcade clone of this is better. My thing, and I couldn't get any love for the Coco. That Trash 80. Every time I hear somebody say that, I want to punch them. I hate that.
Do it.
I mean, you can ask both. I've written letters to people on podcasts that said I can't stand it because it's so wrong. I hate it. And so to get Boat to dig it, like right out of the gate, Boat was on board. Like he had because Boat will tell me if he thinks something's crap. He does it all the time. I do
early and often.
Yeah. He angers the audience all the time, as you guys know. Because Boat's a straight shooter. He doesn't screw around. Brent's the same way. They're both like that. Me, I try to be sort of politically nice about things. So when Boat was on board with the Coco, and I got to play these games, like we played Cash Man a month or two ago, and man, I had forgotten about that. And that's such a great game, Cash Man. And so when we loaded that up, I got that nostalgic feeling that I don't get from doing the other shows because this was my machine, glorious. So that was something I really enjoyed. That didn't even happen on the show. That was just like a side benefit to it. So the Amiga-thons are great. Always have a good time at those as well. It's nice to raise money for charity. You feel like you're doing something. That's always nice. What about you?
I love when someone from our listening audience said, I showed that game you played to my kid and they loved it. The Dick Smith Wizard, we played Outhouse.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners showed it to their kid, wanted to get their opinion on it. They played it, and they showed them another game, and the kids wanted to come back and play more Outhouse.
That was the Dick Smith System 80, by the way.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Super 80.
The system, the Dick Smith System 80 is a TRS-80 Model 1 and 3 ripoff in Australia.
From Australia.
Yeah.
And so,
but those experiences, those moments when you get to take something from your youth and give it to someone else's youth. I always dig that. I always love it.
So that's very
something
cool.
else I want to mention is it's awesome when we do a game and the author chimes in.
Yes,
that's always great, especially when they've got inside scoop on stuff. I always dig that. Even if you're you kill their game, I try not to go in and just butcher a game, but occasionally one just sucks. What are you going to do? And we're not reviewers, and we never claim to be reviewers. We play the game for a week or so. We tell you what we think. We try to be honest. And sometimes when we've killed a game, the author's like, yeah, they rushed that. They maybe rushed that, or they changed something or whatever. And it's sometimes they're like, well, that was a good assessment. Here's what we did, or here's the way things went. And that's always fun too, to get that inside scoop from guys. I like that too.
Yeah, we've had that same experience in our show too.
Yeah. I think the only time I've been so frustrated, I just wanted to quit was trying to work with the FM Towns Marty.
The FM Towns Marty is tough to emulate. Let's put it
it's a beast.
Yeah.
And it has definitely pushed me the farthest to just say, you know what? I'm not having fun doing this. Why am I doing this? And luckily with a show like ARG Presents, the next week you spin the wheel, FM Towns Marty's gone.
Yeah. The Atari ST
you might
never
that too. You might never talk about it again. So it's always going into the next experience. And as long as you can focus on that and try to get past the frustrating parts of it, it's great. I love it.
We got a comment in the chat from Rick Adams, who wrote Temple of Rom. And he says, if you guys ever play Temple of Rom, let him know he wants to be on the show.
Oh,
excellent.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I almost guarantee you we're going to play that.
Yeah.
And he's got Temple of Rom 2 currently in
development. Temple of Rom 2 currently in development. So
yeah,
neat.
Yeah, we have a few developers who hang out with us, which is really awesome. We have Nick Morentis and Chet Simpson and Steve Bjork and Rick Adams, and we're really blessed.
Or as they call it, slumming. But
we also have a Discord server where a lot of us hang out and discuss both hardware and software topics. Other stuff.
Grace Weasels.
I read that stuff all the time. Yeah, it's great.
Now, when you guys were talking about some of the different platforms, and like Aaron was mentioning, this version on the Coco is actually just as good as say a C64 version. Have you guys given any thought to doing a comparison show where you take 3 or 4 base platforms and maybe the more common ones, and just doing a comparison just to see which unofficial clone was the best or something?
It's funny you should mention that because I actually occasionally will do that on my own time, and I actually filmed some. I haven't posted it yet. When we played Canyon Climber, gosh, that was way back. It's been 4 or 5 months ago. I never knew there was a Atari version of that. I mean, I'm sure you guys knew, but I didn't know there was an Atari 8-bit version. and I went and tried it, and I shot video both of them. And I'm putting something together. Bo does that more than I do, but I've got a video set up now where it's a little bit easier for me.
Yeah, on the show proper, it's hard to do that because the way that we do our Patreon structure is that people are on Amigos. There's a whole committee of people that vote on the game that we play every week. On our Sinclair, we've got a rota, we've got a schedule, and people choose games from each category that we play each week. And it's the same way with the Coco show. So it's hard to get all those to line up, but sort of in an informal way. I love doing that stuff, especially when you've got you've got several systems hooked up and it's easy to switch between them.
Yeah. And one thing about the Coco, it's so easy to capture footage from it now. Yeah. Now it is for us. Now because we've both got the exact same setup with this crazy. I mean, if you saw our setup, you'd think we're idiots. We've got the Coco running into an old VCR that has S video out, and it converts that signal into something that the Elgato can capture, and so that's what we use to capture footage. I just happen to have this VCR, and Bo went and bought a broken one so he can do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it turns out it works well.
It does.
The Coco suffers from the same issue that the Atari 8-bits do. Is the video out is funky, and like a lot of digitizers don't work well. We try to bust.
Well, it's because the composite standard had not yet been fully established yet, so the capture cards just don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, running the same problem.
Now all the old TVs that people are throwing out are what we're looking for.
Yeah, those old CRTs for sure.
I've got a nice one. I'm happy I got it. It was a gift, and I hold on to it like grim death.
I went out and bought a JVC dual NTSC PAL, one of those broadcast CRTs, and I love it. It's great.
We've got to have a PAL one for our other stuff.
Sinclair,
There's something about playing on glass.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has that blending or whatever.
Now, a quick question for you. For when you first started the first podcast for the Amiga, you'd mentioned that it was the 35th anniversary of the Amiga. Was that the only reason you decided to start it, or was there some?
We didn't know.
Yeah, we had no idea. We put out the first show.
It was the 30th one. It was
the 30th, and we got all these comments like, "It's so cool that you guys did this in conjunction with the 30th anniversary." We're like, "Yeah, we totally planned that." Yeah.
It's funny that we staggered into the Amigos because at the time there had been some show for the Amiga, but it was gone. And so, and believe it or not, they were crummier and less apt at it than we were. And so we came on the scene, and people were very forgiving of those, of that stuff. And we rolled in, but people have been everything we've gotten into, all these different, because we kind of, a lot of people will fight for their Atari or their whatever. We cross all these posts because we never cared. I never cared about it. I liked them all. Yeah. I will say I had to warm up to the C64 and the Apple, but I mean, once you everything's got something to offer.
There's great stuff on everything.
But everyone's been real accepting and cool about it, and helpful. Yeah.
Aaron, what do you think of the Dragon? Have you seen it much, or
Dragon 32? I've never actually, seen one in person. We played some Dragon exclusive stuff on ARG Presents a while back, but they're interesting. Obviously, they're very, very much like the Coco,
right?
But I would like to get hold of one, to be honest with you. And I like their material, their circulars and stuff. They have the cool symbols and stuff. But I really like their campaigns, their ad campaigns.
Yeah,
super cool.
The marketing was very good for the Dragon.
And the Dragon did have a following. But it's funny, of all the people, I don't talk to very many people that we know that own the Dragon.
No.
So there must not have been. The funny thing is, I found out that I didn't know this, but Tandy sold color computers in the UK for I don't know how successfully. Yeah, but they did sell
the Dragon, right?
No, they didn't sell the Dragon. No, that wasn't them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they competed with each other. Yeah.
So
the Dragon was sold in the States briefly when Tano kind of started selling it in late '83.
Really?
So
people here have them.
As I recall, there was a guy in California selling a ton of those things.
Yeah, they're gone.
And they're mostly
there were like hundreds of them, weren't there? There had a ton of them that people.
Yeah, I got one of the last 12 or so, and that was late.
Yeah, I heard they were long gone.
Yeah, I bought them from the California digital place, and it's just mostly cassette, which is interesting. Most people didn't buy a disc drive or a controller.
That's the way it is in the UK.
Though they were available.
The disc drives, were very expensive, and most of the UK people didn't buy them. They were all cassette or cartridge. So
that's the biggest difference, really, because the Spectrum, there is no cartridge slide. Oh, there is, but it's used for it's not used for cartridges. It's used for like a different
joystick
stuff.
adapter. Yeah. It's an expansion port.
Like I'm looking at Boat's bookcase over here, and he's got 400 billion Spectrum tapes sitting up here. And so, but the Coco and FYI, when I got the Coco for a couple years, we had nothing but cassette, and y'all know how it was in the old days. Those disk drives are pricey, and you wanted one of those double disk drives. So I had the case for the double, but I just had the single in it. I was like, man, I could go for a double. As a kid, I was like, I'd like to fill this sucker up, but they're expensive. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it was like $500 to add a freaking floppy drive to your Coco.
Unbelievable.
So it was insane.
When the SDC came out, everything changed. SDC is one of the greatest things that ever happened to the Coco.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. I agree.
Have you guys ever had Ed on the show?
Ed Snyder?
No. Yeah.
No. He's been in the live chat, but he's never been on that I can recall.
Okay, I was just curious.
He posts on our Facebook groups.
Yeah, he's on our Discord. He'll answer questions there. He answers questions on the list. He's been in our chat during the show and answered questions there live.
Okay.
If he does show up, we should play angel music.
Yeah. If anybody's done more to keep the Coco, especially to make it easy for dumb guys like me.
Man,
I
love that man.
This thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a godsend.
Yeah.
I made him Man of the Year last year.
Yeah.
I just got my physical Cocos. I had them when I was a kid, but I got rid of them. So I just got my physical Cocos a few months ago, and I was trying to do the load from a WAV file from a computer, and it was very hit or miss. So the SDC was definitely made it much more usable.
We did that on the Spectrum.
Yeah, we did that for a long time with the Spectrum. Yeah.
No fun.
Yeah.
I've loaded up programs on my cell phone for the MC10, and that works really well.
You guys know about the MC10?
No, I don't know what it is.
Oops, did I say that?
Oh, it's the microcolor computer. It was a cousin court.
Yeah, it's kind of the kid brother of the Coco.
You've heard of that?
I've seen those.
And it was to compete with Timex Sinclair and those kinds
Here
of
it
machines.
is.
Yeah. I remember that.
Put it on the wheel.
Yeah.
In France, they made one called the Alice. It's red.
Huh.
So we have a following of MC10 people as well that and some games are being ported from the Coco to the MC10.
And
this was actually my first computer. I got this before I got a Coco.
Oh,
wow.
It looks like a Coco when you fire it up, but it doesn't have a flashing cursor.
Huh.
Yeah,
we got all the colors. But
we kind of speculate that this came out around the time of the Timex Sinclair in the U.S., so they were trying to maybe be in that $100
cheaper price range.
Small starter computer.
Quite
thing.
Similar in terms of the keyboard layout, as far as the chiclet keys and things.
It's actually a better physical keyboard than the Sinclair because that was a membrane. So these are tangible keys.
Get worse.
Yeah, the Timex Sinclair was an absolute disaster. Horrible.
And now and this
and it's got macros for all the basic keywords.
Yeah, it does have like a really cool function key where you can
no joysticks.
Yeah, very, like the Specky. Yeah.
4K.
So
wow.
Yeah,
are those readily available? I mean, are those rare machines?
No, you can find eBay for average of about $50.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No,
it's got the same VDG, but it has 60
CPU.
A different CPU. It's got it doesn't have a 6809. It's like a 6803.
Yeah.
It only has 4K, but there's an aftermarket peripheral available that gives it 128K.
And Radio Shack did sell,
and Ed Snyder sells that product.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't sell it anymore.
No, he does again. There were more listed on his site.
Oh yeah.
I tried to buy one from him, and he refunded my money and said I don't have any.
Try again because after that there were more listed on his site.
Yeah.
I remember when you posted.
Yeah, so it is kind of the cousin to the Coco. It's made by Radio Shack. They called it the microcolor computer. It was not software compatible and it's not even completely hardware compatible, but it's a Coco-ish type computer, and it's definitely a relative. And so it's not.
Its basic is fairly compatible, but its machine language is not.
It's a Microsoft Basic again.
It was meant to compete with the Sinclair, and the big problem was that the Coco had dropped so dramatically in price that it. At $119 for that machine, the Coco was like $30 to $50 more.
Sounds a lot like the Commodore 16 that you guys just talked about.
Yeah.
There are currently 2 MCX 128s in stock.
Okay. Oh. So yeah, it's a neat little machine. It mostly works in what we call the semi-graphics modes, which are those kind of block low res graphics modes. That's 90% of what you're going to see on there. And we got a guy called Jim Gary who has written more software for that machine than probably any other 8-bit machine in the world. So yeah, he ports tons of things. So he finds all these different programs from around the world and just converts them to the MC Basic. And so there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of really cool games in Basic with very low resolution graphics, but are really cool to look at and incredibly impressive to look at due to the limitations of the resolution and everything else. So,
and here's why did Tandy do that? They've only made like what 4 or 5 tapes from Tandy for the machine.
Wow. So there wasn't exactly a whole library.
No. Its afterlife is bigger than its original life was, for sure.
Yeah, by far.
I have a question for you.
If you guys would chart the sort of the talking about aftermarket life of computers, last year for the Amiga there were like 80 new games.
Wow,
I mean,
that's a lot.
Staggering number. Do you think that there was obviously coming away from when the Coco was viable as a legit platform for the average user? Do you think that we're still sort of on the up and up in terms of interest and kind of independent software development?
It's growing.
I think it's growing. We have had maybe in the past 5 years, maybe a dozen and a half what I'd call commercial titles.
That's great.
And for the size of our community, that's fairly impressive. There's lots of regular people just making their own software, the homebrew stuff in Basic or hybrid stuff. So there's lots of software being generated. But as far as like products that you would purchase, we'll say maybe a dozen and a half in the past 5-6 years that are all of quality.
Yeah, and that's accelerating.
Yeah, and that's definitely accelerating now. A lot more interest. And just so you guys probably have a clock nearby, but I know you have to do your club meeting soon, so we're almost at your hour. Yeah. It is almost 7 o'clock our time, so I want to respect your time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have one final thing I think you guys should explain, though. Can you explain how the Patreon to get on the game selection committee works so that people in our community can help out?
Oh, sure. So we basically there's just like every Patreon page, there's different levels. But for each one of our shows, if you are a $10 a month supporter of the show, you get to join the game selection committee for whichever show you decide to support, whether it's Amigos or our Sinclair or the Coco Show. And because the Coco Show is still quite new, we still have plenty of spots available to where you can pick a game once a month. We play the game that you want. Amigos, there are so many people on the Amigos game selection committee. The way that we do it is we have each week we play a game from a different genre, and you can suggest a game, and then people vote. Everybody on the committee votes, and then the winner of that game gets played. But since we're in such early days with the Coco Show, if you want us to play a game, join at that $10 a month level, and we will play that game that month for sure.
It helps us out because a lot of times, especially now with the Coco, really, but with all the systems, we don't know what the good games are, what the bad games are, what the mediocre games are. We don't know. Like the Spectrum, who knows? The Amigos and the Coco is the same thing. Like I said, I've got a pretty decent knowledge of what I remember playing as a kid. But I mean, I'm not a kid, and it's been a long time. My memory, my brain is tapioca. It's been a rough life. You know what I'm saying? And so it helps when people get on there and say, "Listen, try this and this." That points us in the right direction because we don't know what we're doing. It helps.
Yes, you've done all top tier games so far. Like all the ones you've picked so far have been like among the cream of the crop.
We've picked some. We haven't picked that many of those.
No, I think we've only picked 3 since we started.
Yeah, and I remember Buzzard Bait was one that I picked because you called me up.
Best games.
Cold. And then the other ones, I don't even remember what they were. Oh, the first show we picked those. That was it.
But that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We patrons have done the rest. So
they know what they're doing.
Donut Dilemma or anything.
You want a frustrating game? Try Predator.
Oh, jeez. One thing I have to say about you guys, I've seen all your shows, and I just find a banter between you guys. Especially, I went and rewatched the one before Rampage, before our interview, because that one for sure made me laugh. Like just the way you guys were interacting with each other.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier when we did the test. We like to have a little bit of banter before we get into the show, because here's the deal: the thing that makes us different than so many other shows is that we are friends in real life.
Yeah,
Before
you can tell.
we did the podcast, we did this for decades, and nobody watched us, but we were doing the same thing. So me and Aaron and Brent would get together and we'd play video games and we'd talk. And so all we're doing now is we're just recording it. So all of the banter that we have, it just comes so easy.
Well,
Yeah, it really adds to the show.
I find
And
Brent
Donkey.
infuriating, and I find Bode insufferable. And their number one goal in life is to literally make my brain explode. Which is, I go back to why I said my mind was tapioca. They've been killing me slowly. You know, they'll just say stuff out of the blue that make me want to jump up and launch myself into orbit.
Aaron, I'm telling you, digital wheel.
No, that's exactly
Physical
my point.
digital wheel.
So that, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I think people just like to see me go slowly mad.
Yeah, it's fun.
Steve has.
And John Donkey King, have you softened it all on that yet?
Here, you know, my opinion still stands on Donkey King.
Oh, killing me.
Sport, it needs to play like the original game. There's a lot to be said for Donkey King, but it doesn't play like Donkey Kong. It doesn't look as good as Donkey Kong. I know that the Coco could do a better version. They could do. Look at Sailor Man. Sailor Man is
same author. Same author.
Yeah, it's the same author. I don't know what he was drinking when he was coding Donkey King. But it is nothing.
You've
like
never.
Donkey Kong.
This is what I'm talking about. You've never been so wrong about something.
Yeah.
I own a Donkey Kong.
I'm with you, Aaron.
That thing is solid gold money.
You're blinded by your love for Donkey Kong.
No, I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Did you
That
guys
killed the Coleco version of Donkey Kong?
Killed
as far
it.
as I'm concerned.
It killed almost all of them. I went back and played a ton. I played his beloved Atari 8-bit. Let me tell you something. The king is right there. The one is too fast. One's a little bit too slow. The one I played one that was somewhere in the middle. I'm trying to remember. I told you what it was. It was like the Atari 5200. So there was a couple. There's one that's a good happy medium. But the King, when that thing came out back in the day, I could not believe it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
All 4 levels with the intermissions. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ignore
Absolutely.
him.
Sorry, John. Yeah, you're wrong on that one.
Feel free to disagree.
Well, listen, you know, we're passionate about the Coco. A lot of us here are into Coco games too. We got serious people who are into hardware and software, but most of us are into games too. So we are glad that you're featuring some Coco games and
You're a good sport,
exposing new people to our beloved machine. And we support you guys. We appreciate you guys, and I appreciate what you're doing. Yeah.
Thanks for having us on. And if anybody's just hanging out after you guys wrap up CoCoTALK, we are doing Taze Valley Classic Computer Club tonight on Twitch at the
now.
Yeah, our channel is Amigos Retro Gaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. Feel free to tune in. We usually do the first Saturday, and every month. This month it's the second Saturday. But we are going to be playing the Coco. We're going to be playing the Super Cassette Vision, the Atari 8-bit,
C64,
all original hardware. We do it all. There's always a ton of people in the chat. It's a lot of fun. If you guys want to hang out with us, we'd love to have you.
And thanks for having us on. I've watched your show I've watched it quite a while, and I always enjoy it. And it's nice it's neat to be invited to interview. I like it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being with us.
Yeah,
thanks for coming by.
Yeah, feel free to join us on the show sometime too.
Yeah,
you guys are welcome to join us on Discord too anytime.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
And John, I'm still a fan. Don't worry.
Yeah, have a great meeting.
All right. Thanks,
Adios.
guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Pressing the button.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, they might have to go. So maybe oops, no, I'm not going to leave the meeting yet. Okay. Oh, maybe I just did. Okay, sorry.